good morning, and good morning to you listeners. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for another wonderful episode of Exit Strategy Radio Show. Hey, I'm your host. Yes, that is me, Colin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in Beautiful, North Charleston, South Carolina. Guys, hey, if this is your first time listening to this show, hey, we are going to have a ball here today because our mission, as you all know, and please say it with me, is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education because we are doing what? Legacy building. That is what we do. So, guys, today we have with us one of the leaders in the mortgage industry here locally in the Charleston area. But, guys, look, he services wherever he gets to call. All right. He can help you out. So, guys, we have with us Joe Landingham with Carolina One Mortgage. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Corin. How are you doing?
I am phenomenal. So, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here on the show. So, if you don't mind, tell our listeners a little bit about you. Who is Joe Landingham?
Well, I actually started as a realtor back in March of 2010, closed about 150 properties in my real estate career. And then last September, October, I was given an opportunity to move over to our mortgage side with Carolina One Mortgage in our downtown office on Rutledge Avenue. And I took that opportunity and I've been officially licensed as a loan officer since February the 1st of this year in this new role. Definitely picked a quite interesting time to make the switch with the market shift and rates and stuff like that. I love what I do. I love helping people reach their goals in real estate. So it's just a very rewarding career to be involved in. And every day is something new. And it's something that I really, really enjoy.
So, Joe, you started in the industry as an agent, quote unquote, smack dab in the middle of the recession. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yeah, we were doing a lot of REOs, a lot of bank owned properties. We were doing a lot of short sales at the time. So, yeah, when I got into it, we were definitely in a lot different of a market than what we are in now. That's for sure.
Look, that is interesting. So, obviously, you got a lot of stories to share possibly from that time period coming forward. So now we're in a quote unquote different time period. So let me ask you this, and this is kind of a loaded question, but let me ask you this. What similarities do you see in the current market versus what you saw back when you first got in?
Similarities?
Do you see any?
Well, we're always trying to help people either find their next home, find their quote unquote forever home, trying to find where they're wanting to go in their lives. People are always going to be buying and selling. There may be differences in rates, there may be differences in other things, but ultimately, we are definitely still trying to help people reach a certain goal. For a lot of different people, that can be a lot of different types of goals that they're trying to obtain. But ultimately, that's what we're here for. And we're trying to help educate people on what's the best way of reaching that goal. So I'm trying to think similarities. I don't think there's quite as many as there was back in 2010. I mean, things have definitely changed. We definitely don't see hardly any foreclosures or short sales on the market right now. If they do, they're definitely few and far in between. But that's not to say that there aren't out there, because of course, as you know, there's definitely some opportunities that are out there in that type of market, but we just may not see them quite as often. So that's a little bit of a tougher question to go back 10 years and try to sit here and see what type of similarities there are.
One the reason for the question is because obviously as we are going through, if you will, trying to answer questions for people when such in current climate, there's this belief, this myth, if you will, that we are destined to return to that time period that we've already been through. There's a lot of people that are believing that the market's going to crash and things of that nature. So, as someone who's been around for a while, sometimes we look and we see these things differently. Hence my question. As being someone who's worked, quote unquote, both sides of the fence, let me also ask you or bring this question, quote unquote, to bear. As an agent, you obviously have had experiences and felt there were certain things that people needed to know from a lending standpoint. Now, being a lender, what is that information that you wish that as an agent that a lender had told someone or shared with them or educated them on so they would be better prepared consumers?
Well, I mean, I believe 100% this is still, no matter what type of environment we're in, I still 100% believe this is a relationship business. You're only there for transaction or just focus solely on getting, this property to the closing table and not really focused on building the relationship with your client, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You really have to, take the time, get to know your client, find out more information about their family, their kids, their dreams, their goals. You've got to remember that we're all people. We like talking about ourselves. We like talking about our kids. We like talking about our pets. Again, this is a relationship business. You have to be there for them now, but also show your value in, why you want to, possibly do business with this person in the future, or refer them to your mom or dad that may be moving to the area soon, or their brother, sister, or good friend. Again, you've got to take the time and build that rapport and build that relationship, whether you're an agent or a loan officer, either one. That goes across into multiple different businesses or faucets. I mean, this is a relationship business, and you've got to, take the time to build that relationship.
So, Joe, what are like the struggles that and difficulties that let's say I'm a buyer, I'm looking to explore mortgage options. What is probably, if you could pinpoint maybe like the number one thing that people are having a difficult time with in the current climate, what would that be?
I think with what's happened over the last several months, with rate increasing a good bit from what we were seeing, during the pandemic levels of 2020, 2021, the rates going up have definitely possibly pushed some people outside of what they were possibly approved for in the past. So when you have a mindset of being able to buy up here and then you have to be brought down a level, it's always harder, I think, to go down than it is to go up. So I think, mindset with some people has definitely been a little bit of a challenge for them to realize what they can now afford versus what they possibly could have afforded back when the rates were a little bit lower than what we're seeing now. I think also another challenge is, we've seen a good bit of people that are tapping out on, available credit cards, and so forth, to where they are maxing out some of their credit cards, which that's definitely not a good thing to do. You need to keep that ratio 30% or lower. That way it doesn't really negatively affect your credit report and possibly bring that score lower. So your credit card usage. Also, it seems like auto financing has definitely been a little easier for some. So we've gotten, quite a bit of people that are, getting into vehicle loans with quite large payments. And so, of course, a larger car payment, affects your DTI and will affect you're ultimately able to afford when it comes to a home loan. And so I think people need to be a little bit more aware, the debts that they are incurring, car payments that they're, taking on, especially if they're looking at to buy a home in the near future, because some of those things can definitely be pretty detrimental to what they can end up buying.
That is interesting. You should make mention of that. A couple few days ago, in relationship to someone on social media who had bought a car and they just bought this new car, but then they're tagging their agent in a post saying, "Hey, my house is next." And I'm thinking to myself, we might have did that one backwards. Just maybe, who knows? But I share this story, Joe. This is from years and years ago, but I share this story of a lady who came. She had attended a workshop that I had hosted or participated in at some point in time, did not engage my services. She went on about her business elsewhere, which was fine. But she ended up in my office because she was a few weeks from closing on a brand new house that was built. And she had went out and bought a car and no longer qualified to purchase that house and was
Mm.
in my office seeking my help trying to find solutions. But again, I wasn't the agent that worked with her or helped her at the time. And I hated it for her. I tried to give her some advice. One thing I told her, get rid of the car. you know,
Yeah.
figure out how you're gonna get rid of it because buying the car offset or threw her debt ratio completely out of line. And sometimes that's what people sometimes miss. My conversation was, well, how did you get here? I want to have an understanding. Well, my car had issues. Okay, well, couldn't you fix it? Well, yeah, but I got tired of fixing it. Well, you could have fixed it a little bit longer and could have had a different scenario, a different situation. Are you seeing a fair amount of that as well, as you kind of may mention with cars? I mean, everybody trying to get a deal. Everybody's trying to sell something big ticket right now over the last couple of years to inject money into the economy. People are trying to sell everything. Is that kind of what you've been seeing as well?
Yeah, we've definitely seen some instances of that lately where we've had to help educate some borrowers on either refinancing the car to a lower payment, selling the car outright. I mean, because right now in the used car segment, we're definitely seeing something that is a little bit different that hasn't necessarily been seen in years past, where vehicles are holding up to their value, where they're not going down as much, just because of some of the shortages with some of the materials that they had to use with the chips and all that kind of stuff. So used car values are still holding up a little bit, so people are able to refinance or sell and get out up underneath that. So we have had some people that's actually done that recently to be able to make it to where they can, buy a house. But it's all about priority. If someone is given the information and are giving ways to make something attainable, of course, we can give all the information possible, but it's ultimately up to them to take that information and do what's best. But if you've got someone that's serious about becoming a homeowner, taking that next step, they're going to take the necessary steps to make it happen. Some people may not, but for the most part, for the people that we have been giving that information to, they are taking it and making it to where they can become a homeowner.
That's fair. You spoke about something else that's quote unquote near and dear to us here on the show, which is making sure the consumer gets the information and they're educated in the process. Because oftentimes they don't know. They're approaching real estate, purchasing real estate from stuff they saw on TikTok videos or
Mm,
things of that nature, which oftentimes is designed for entertainment, but not for actual information and education. And that's something that we run into. Possibly you'd be surprised at how many people we encounter now who want to do things in a real estate transaction that we can't do, but they want to do it because somebody on TikTok said that's what you're supposed to do. Like, wait a minute, no, that's not quite how that works. Be mindful of where we get our information because not all information technically is a good education.
yeah, or good information. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely creates some situations. But also has kind of fostered this environment. I don't know if you're seeing this or not. So this is definitely a question for you, but you seeing a lot of people that just seemingly are not fully committed to a transaction, committed to following the steps or the orders of the transaction, and in turn want to change the rule. Contracts are contracts. Contractual things are contractual items. Sometimes we've seen a lot of that recently where people want to breach that contractual agreement. Are you kind of seeing the same thing?
I wouldn't say so much recently. I think with the changes that was done to the real estate contract like 2 months ago or somewhere along that time frame has definitely made it, I think, a little bit more challenging for buyers just to, like you said, back out of it. There's more, I guess, skin in the game, I guess you could say, with the way the contract is now, and with having to have the termination fee and agreement and stuff like that. I'm sure you're aware of those changes as well. So I think that has definitely helped reduce the amount of people that may or may not have been as committed, in the past.
That's a fair assessment. I could agree with that. So, as we've interviewed our lending partners and such over the past several weeks or so, one thing that a conversation that we've been having has been along the lines of what was expectation. Obviously, if I had a crystal ball, I'd be laying up on a beach somewhere with my feet up because I'm hitting the lottery every day because I'm playing the numbers as winning because I already know what's coming if I had a crystal ball. And I'm pretty sure you're pretty close to the same. You probably be on a boat somewhere with the family or what have you. What is your general expectation? Like, I mean, obviously, we know that rates always change in the economy. But offhand, just kind of what do you think and how do you feel about what you think may happen?
Well, the days of the 2 and 3% rates, I mean, I definitely think that's behind us. So with where we're at now, seeing the fives and sixes, I think that's just our new norm. So I think educating the consumer on that is definitely very important because I think some people are still in that previous mindset, and we got to get past that. The good thing is, there are definitely some options out there, like a 2-1 buy down, to where we can give someone lower payment, for the first 2 years, especially if someone is not really looking at being in that property for a long period of time. That may be a good option for them to consider. But again, it comes back to what we talked about a little bit ago about just educating the consumer and letting them know upfront where we're at. I definitely think where we're at now is where we're going to stay for quite a while. I mean, again, nothing is for certain. Things could always change because, like you said, neither one of us have a crystal ball, so we can't really see too far ahead and to know what's going to actually transpire. But I think where we're at now, probably going to hold fast for a little while. Personally, I don't see any major shifts up or down. I think it's going to kind of ride out a little bit where we're at, and we just got to do a better job at educating our clients.
That is very true, Joe. We definitely do. I think part of is slowing down to have the conversation. When I first got into the industry, I remember did everything on the go. It was you met with the folks, you talked, you spoke about, introduced them to agency and relationships and real estate. You put a purchase agreement in front of them and had them sign a purchase agreement as an offer to a seller without going through it in any great detail of giving them an opportunity or significant opportunity to review. And now we are we found ourselves, at least in my opinion, from the last 2, maybe 3 years, but definitely the last 2 years of kind of being really thrust back into that, doing things very quickly and not having the time to
Mm.
educate the consumer on pros, cons, giving any type of advice. Sometimes people are trying to do things not because they know that's the best thing to do, but because they are just being told and instructed without any basis. So I definitely think there's an opportunity, as you may mention a few times in there, to better educate the consumer on the process so they have a better understanding of the undertaking. They know, okay, this is what could happen. These are the risks that you take. However, these are rewards overall, and you figure out from there which direction you want to go.
I don't think there's anything that we do that's basic. I mean, I think our day to day, we always have challenges. Again, as you know, I mean, every day is something different, either in my world or in your world on in that regard. But I think going back to the fundamental basics of what we do, and like you said, having a clear path to show the consumers clear steps and being there to help guide them through those steps is very important. And just going back to the basics, just creating a good basics, I guess I don't know what the right word would be here, but just a good plan, a good course of action is very important because yes, I mean, you got to be able to guide your clients through all of the ins and outs that for the most part, probably biggest financial decisions, biggest purchases of their life. So you've got to be able to be there. You got to help be a counselor, a mentor. You've got to be there in several different ways to make sure that they're getting what they want from you and from what you're trying to do.
That's a very true statement. So, Joe, for our listeners, give us your contact information. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
My cell number is 843-303-0543. My email address is kind of long, but I will give it to you. It's joseph.landingham at Carolina One, and one is spelled out ONE. So joseph.landingham at Carolina One MTG.com.
Awesome, awesome. So, Joe, at the end of our show today, so for our listeners, guys, y'all please reach out to Joe. Now, he gave y'all his cell number. If you missed it, please go to our website, look for this episode. Please make sure you download, listen to it, and share it. And make sure that you reach out to Joe. Let's break Joe's phone. I mean, let's call him so much and ask him how you can become a homeowner. Let's make his day. All right. So, Joe, thank you so much for being a part of the Exit Strategy Radio Show family. I appreciate you being here with us today. Again, taking time out of your busy schedule in order to do so. Listeners, as we always say, guys, want to make sure that you take this information and let it be good information for you. Let it be something that you instill in you and that you share with others, not only for their benefit, but also for your growth and benefit as well. And as we always say to you, as we end today's show, guys, and you know what we're going to say to you, we love you, we love you, we love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.